What if the most unforgettable moment in Pretty Woman wasn't just a romantic scene, but a carefully designed piece of movie magic that carried a hidden meaning? The necklace scene where Edward suddenly snaps the jewelry box shut and Vivian bursts into laughter has lived in the hearts of audiences for decades. But here's the truth. This iconic moment wasn't even in the script. It was an accident, a spontaneous gesture that changed the entire tone of the movie. And in Pretty Woman to 2025, this very scene is making a comeback, not just as a memory, but as a key that might unlock brand new layers of the story. Asterisk, the necklace scene is more than just a sweet, funny moment between Edward and Vivian. It's a scene that completely reshaped how people remember Pretty Woman. In the original 1990 film, Richard Gere's character opens the red velvet jewelry box to reveal a dazzling diamond and ruby necklace worth a fortune. Julia Roberts, playing Vivian, leans forward to admire it, and that's when Gere snaps the box shut, catching her off guard. What followed was not a rehearsed reaction, but Julia's real, unfiltered laugh. It was so genuine, so full of surprise, that the director decided to keep it in the final cut. That small improvisation transformed the dynamic of their relationship on screen, turning a serious exchange into something playful, human, and unforgettable. But why does this moment matter so much? Because it captured what the entire movie was truly about: an unexpected love story that didn't follow the rules. Vivian was a character who wasn't supposed to fit into Edward's wealthy, high-society world. Yet in that laugh, audiences saw her innocence, her honesty, and her ability to break through Edward's stiff, businesslike exterior. It wasn't about diamonds or money, it was about connection. And that necklace became a symbol of how their two worlds collided in the most unexpected way. Over the years, a single moment has been replayed countless times in interviews, retrospectives, and fan compilations. It's often called one of the most charming happy accidents in Hollywood history. But beyond its charm, it tells us something powerful about storytelling. Sometimes the most lasting impressions don't come from carefully written lines or rehearsed movements, but from raw, unscripted emotions that feel real. Julia's laugh wasn't acting, it was living. That's why it struck a chord with millions of viewers worldwide. The necklace itself was not just a random piece of jewelry chosen for the movie. It was a genuine necklace, created with real diamonds and rubies, and valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. This was no costume prop, it was luxury in its purest form. The filmmakers wanted it to represent Edward's wealth and the kind of world Vivian was stepping into. But the beauty of the scene is that the necklace, despite its cost, wasn't the star. Vivian's laugh was. This subtle detail made the entire moment feel more human, reminding audiences that love is not about price tags, but about genuine joy and connection. Another reason the necklace scene became so iconic is its perfect balance of romance and comedy. Romantic movies often struggle to keep both elements in harmony. Too much comedy and the romance feels shallow. Too much romance and it becomes overly dramatic. But this scene delivered both at once. It was romantic because Edward was gifting Vivian something so precious, and it was comedic because of the playful snap of the box. That combination struck the exact tone that made Pretty Woman a cultural phenomenon: lighthearted, emotional, and endlessly rewatchable. Critics and fans alike often point out that, without this scene, Pretty Woman might not have achieved the legendary status it holds today. Turned Edward and Vivian from characters in a movie into people you could believe in, people whose love story felt alive. And it's why decades later, when people talk about the film, the necklace moment is always one of the first to come up, as we look ahead to Pretty Woman 2, 2025. It's no surprise that this scene is being revisited. The sequel isn't just reviving old characters. It's reaching back into the very moments that made audiences fall in love the first time. By highlighting the necklace scene again, the filmmakers are not only appealing to nostalgia, but also promising to give it new meaning. In the original, the necklace was a symbol of wealth and charm. But in the sequel, it could become a symbol of growth, change, or even closure. The necklace scene's legacy lies in its simplicity. It was unscripted, spontaneous, and real. That's exactly why it has stood the test of time. In just a few seconds, a piece of jewelry and a genuine laugh turned into one of the most iconic moments in film history. And now, 35 years later, it's coming back, not just as a memory, but as a piece of the story waiting to be told again. Asterisk the announcement of Pretty Woman 2 2025 has sent waves of excitement across Hollywood and among fans worldwide. But what has really caught everyone's attention is the return of the necklace scene. On the surface, it might seem like a simple callback to the original movie, a nostalgic nod to what audiences loved. But if you look closer, it becomes clear that this moment isn't just about nostalgia. It's about rewriting what the necklace means in a world that has completely changed since 1990, back in the original film. The necklace was a symbol of Edward's wealth and power. It represented the divide between his world of privilege and Vivian's world of struggle. But Vivian's laugh cut through all of that. It shifted the meaning of the necklace from a cold, material object into a symbol of warmth and connection. In Pretty Woman 2, however, the necklace is stepping into a completely different cultural and emotional space. Today, audiences don't look at wealth and luxury in the same way. A diamond necklace no longer simply symbolizes romance, it can also symbolize control, status, and even the imbalance of power between people. And that's why revisiting this scene in 2025 could completely transform the way we understand Edward and Vivian's story. Think about it when Vivian wore the necklace in the first film. It was a sign that she was stepping into Edward's world, being transformed from an outsider into someone who could belong at his side. But in the sequel, Vivian is no longer the inexperienced dreamer she once was. She has grown, evolved, and most importantly, she has her own power now. If the necklace returns, it might not represent her dependence on Edward. Instead, it could represent her ability to claim her place on her own terms. What once was a gift might now become a statement of independence. Rumors around the sequel's plot suggest that the filmmakers are not simply recreating the past, but reinterpreting it for a modern audience. This means the necklace could carry entirely new layers of meaning. For example, what if the necklace is reintroduced not as a gift from Edward, but as something Vivian has kept all these years, a reminder of how far she's come? That would change the narrative from one about being given wealth to one about holding on to a piece of her past. Not because of what it cost, but because of what it meant. It could become a symbol of how she's never forgotten her journey, even as she's built a new life for herself. Another angle to consider is how the sequel could use the necklace to comment on relationships in today's world. In the 90s, grand gestures of wealth and luxury were seen as the height of romance. Today, audiences are more skeptical. They value equality, respect, and emotional honesty over diamonds and pearls. This shift in values could mean that the necklace scene in Pretty Woman 2 is not about glamour at all, but about showing how love has to grow beyond superficial symbols. Maybe the necklace will still appear, but instead of being the centerpiece, it could be overshadowed by something much more meaningful: Vivian's choices, her strength, and the life she has built outside of Edward's shadow. And yet, despite all these possibilities, one truth remains. The necklace scene is central to the Pretty Woman legacy. Without it, the sequel wouldn't feel complete. It's not just a piece of jewelry, it's a bridge between the past and the present, between who Vivian was and who she has become. By revisiting the necklace, the filmmakers are reminding audiences of the spark that made them fall in love with Edward and Vivian's story in the first place. At the same time, they're challenging us to see it in a new light through the lens of a modern world where power and romance are understood very differently. The question now is, how will the scene unfold? We see Edward once again presenting the necklace in a playful gesture, reigniting that famous laugh. Or will Vivian herself control the moment, perhaps even turning the scene upside down by placing the necklace on herself, symbolizing her independence? The very fact that fans are speculating shows just how powerful this scene has become. It's not just a memory, it's a mystery waiting to be solved in Pretty Woman 2. At its heart, the necklace's return is about continuity. It ties the two films together, allowing the sequel to honor its roots while also writing a new chapter. The necklace was once a symbol of love offered. It may now become a symbol of love chosen. And that difference, subtle as it may seem, could define the emotional weight of the entire sequel. So when we talk about why the necklace scene matters again, the answer is simple. It's because it's no longer just about diamonds and laughter. It's about transformation, power, and the redefinition of love across generations. What started as a spontaneous laugh in 1990 may return in 2025 as a deliberate choice, reshaping how audiences see Vivian, Edward, and the love story that has lasted more than 3 decades. The truth behind the necklace scene is far more fascinating than what most people see on screen. On the surface, it's playful, romantic, and perfectly timed, but behind the camera, it was a complete accident that turned into one of the most magical moments in Hollywood history. And the deeper you look, the more secrets you uncover about how this scene was filmed, why it worked so well, why it continues to shape conversations even today, as Pretty Woman to 2025 prepares to revisit it. Let's start with the biggest secret of all. Julia Roberts' laugh was never scripted. Richard Gere's snap of the jewelry box wasn't written into the script, and the crew had no idea it was coming. Gere simply improvised it on the spot, surprising Roberts in a way that broke her character for a split second. Instead of cutting the moment, director Gary Marshall decided to keep it because it felt so genuine. And that decision changed everything. It gave audiences an authentic glimpse into the chemistry between the actors, transforming what could have been a typical luxury gifting scene into something unforgettable. But there's another hidden detail. Many fans don't know the necklace itself was real, and it was extremely valuable. The ruby-on diamond piece was reportedly worth around $250,000, which meant security was tighter than usual on set. In fact, the jewelry came with its own armed guard, who was required to be present whenever the necklace was out of its box. So that meant every time Julia Roberts put it on, or even held it in her hands, someone was standing nearby making sure nothing happened to it. This added a layer of tension behind the scenes that the audience never sees. But it also added to the sense of luxury the filmmakers wanted to capture. Another behind-the-scenes revelation is how carefully the director balanced tone during that sequence. Gary Marshall understood that the film could easily lean too heavily on romance or become too serious, especially in scenes involving wealth and high society. By allowing Julia Roberts' natural reaction to stay in, he gave the scene a lightness that perfectly balanced out the glamour. It showed audiences that while Edward could buy Vivian expensive jewels, what really mattered was the laughter and human connection between them. This subtle directorial choice is one of the reasons Pretty Woman stood apart from other romantic dramas of its time. And yet, the real magic of the scene wasn't just in the laugh or the necklace, it was in how Julia Roberts embodied the role. At the time of filming, Roberts was still relatively new to Hollywood, and her reactions were often unfiltered and fresh. In fact, Gary Marshall had a reputation for drawing natural responses from his actors, sometimes even surprising them with little tricks on set to get authentic reactions. The necklace snap was one of those moments. Julia's laugh wasn't just Vivian's, it was hers. And that blurring of actor and character is what made it resonate so deeply. There's also a fascinating technical detail about how the scene was filmed. The close-up shots of the necklace and the jewelry box were designed to make the diamonds sparkle as much as possible under the lighting. The cinematography team used special angles and lighting techniques to ensure that when the necklace was revealed, it gleamed in a way that would catch the audience's eye instantly. This wasn't just about showing jewelry, it was about symbolizing the allure of Edward's world, the kind of glamour Vivian was being pulled into. The visual storytelling worked hand in hand with the unscripted laughter to create a scene that felt both luxurious and completely human. Over the years, cast and crew have shared small details about what it was like filming that moment. Julia Roberts herself has often said that she had no idea Gere was going to do it, which is why her reaction was so pure. Richard Gere has admitted that he did it to make her laugh, sensing that the scene needed a spark. Gary Marshall always maintained that keeping it in was one of the best decisions he ever made as a director. These stories remind us that some of the greatest cinematic moments don't come from hours of planning. they come from spontaneity, instinct, and trust between actors and filmmakers. The hidden secrets don't end there. For example, did you know that Julia Roberts was so nervous during filming that her laughter often helped her shake off the pressure of playing such a major role? The necklace snap gave her that release in the middle of a very glamorous, intimidating setup. It wasn't just Vivian breaking out of her world. It was Julia breaking out of the nerves of being a young actress thrust into the spotlight. That's part of why the moment feels so real. It was as much Julia's story as it was Vivian's. As Pretty Woman to 2025 prepares to revisit the necklace, these behind-the-scenes stories matter more than ever. The sequel has the challenge of honoring that authenticity while also creating something new. Fans don't just want a replica of the past, they want to feel the same kind of magic. And that means the filmmakers may once again rely on improvisation, surprise, or unscripted moments to recapture the charm that made the original necklace scene iconic. The lesson of the past is clear. Perfection isn't what makes a scene timeless. Real human reactions do. The necklace scene's hidden secrets show us that movies are not just about scripts and props there, about the unpredictable sparks that happen when real people connect. That's why even today, decades later, we're still talking about it. It's the laughter, the diamonds, the playful snap of the jewelry box, all of it came together to create something larger than life. And with Pretty Woman 2 on the horizon, those same behind-the-scenes truths remind us that the magic of cinema often comes when we least expect it. Asterisk. When a sequel dares to revisit one of the most iconic moments in film history, it has to do more than simply repeat what worked before. It has to add new meaning. That's the challenge facing Pretty Woman to 2025 and the legendary necklace scene. For decades, the moment has stood as a symbol of romance, spontaneity, and pure Hollywood magic. But now, in a new era and with older, wiser characters, the necklace can no longer be just a symbol of wealth and charm. It must evolve into something more powerful, something that reflects the growth of Vivian and Edward, and the way love itself has changed across time. In the original film, the necklace represented Edward's world's a high-class, wealthy lifestyle. That Vivian was being invited into was a gesture of generosity, but also one of control, because Edward was the one with the money and the ability to give. Vivian's laugh broke that tension, reminding audiences that romance is not about power, but about connection. In Pretty Woman 2, the necklace has the potential to flip that meaning upside down. This time, Vivian is no longer the wide-eyed woman stepping into someone else's world. She's her own person, with her own voice, her own success, and her own choices. If the necklace comes back into the story, it could be used to show just how far she's come. Imagine this. Instead of Edward placing the necklace around Vivian's neck like before, Vivian takes control of the moment. Maybe she chooses to wear it not because Edward gives it to her, but because it represents her own journey, her own decision to embrace both where she came from and where she is now. That subtle shift transforms the necklace from a symbol of dependence into one of independence. It's no longer about what Edward can offer. It's about what Vivian chooses for herself. This would give the sequel a fresh, modern perspective while still honoring the legacy of the original film. There are also powerful storytelling opportunities in how the necklace could be reintroduced. For instance, it might appear in a completely new context, such as an anniversary, a reunion, or even a moment of conflict. What if the necklace becomes a point of tension between Edward and Vivian, reminding them of their differences rather than their connection? Or what if it's used as a symbol of healing, representing not just romance but also forgiveness and renewal? By weaving the necklace into a pivotal moment of the sequel, the filmmakers can ensure that it carries the same weight it did in 1990. But with an entirely new emotional layer. Another angle is how the necklace could connect generations. Pretty Woman 2 could introduce new characters, perhaps a daughter, a young protege, or someone from Vivian's past, and the necklace could become a bridge between them. It could symbolize not just Edward and Vivian's love, but also the lessons they've learned and the legacy they want to pass on. In this way, the necklace moves beyond being a romantic trinket and becomes a storytelling device that represents continuity, growth, and the passage of time. And then, of course, there's the question of whether the filmmakers will dare to recreate the iconic snap moment. Fans will be watching closely, wondering if Edward will once again close the box playfully, or if Vivian will turn the tables this time. Perhaps she's the one who surprises Edward, reminding him that their relationship has always thrived on spontaneity and laughter. Reversing the roles could be a clever way to honor the past while showing how their dynamic has evolved. It would also give audiences that rush of nostalgia while delivering something fresh and unexpected. From a thematic perspective, the necklace could also represent the central question of the sequel. Can love survive when people change? In the first film, Edward and Vivian came together despite their differences. In the sequel, they must navigate the changes that time has brought. The necklace could embody that tension, something beautiful and valuable, but also something fragile.